Yo, what's up, DC? Bob here. Got a record in the mail today and thought I would make a little video for you. Let's get started. Bam! Lee Morgan, The Cooker. This is a Blue Note Tone Poet Series record. We all know the Tone Poet Series. Many people in the VC show them all the time. I love these records. I think they're fantastic. Not only do I think they sound amazing, but I think they're a fantastic value. Now, I made a video when the Tone Poet Series first came out with Jeffrey Lee Puckett. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you've probably seen those. I've bought many Tone Poet records since then, and I think I have a deeper insight on this series now. Also, I've bought some Blue Note 80s. I also think those are very fantastic. Now, the differences between the two series of records are pretty simplistic. The Tone Poets come with this really heavy-duty deluxe gatefold jacket with a lot of really awesome Francis Wolff photography inside, and the Blue Note 80s come in just like a standard single sleeve jacket. These are pressed at RTI, and the Blue Note 80s are pressed at Palace, right? So we all know the story, right? He gets Joe Harley to give some Blue Note titles the deluxe treatment. They get Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio to do the mastering. It's from all analog source, so it's either the original master tapes or a copy of the original master tapes in theory. There's a lot of great titles that would be very expensive if you bought them original first pressings of these records. They'd be very expensive. So, these run about $30. Let's just say we're rounding here in either direction. And the Blue Note 80s are between $20 and $25. Okay? Now, there are some things about Blue Note records that I would like to talk about briefly. The first thing is, so Rudy Van Gelder mixed and mastered and actually cut the lacquers on the original Blue Note records, right? So you can never remove Rudy from the equation 100% because he still was the engineer on these sessions. But these records are now mixed and mastered by Kevin Gray, right? But here's the deal. It's on 2-track anyway, so it's not like a real complicated situation. Most of these records are stereo in the Blue Note Tone Poet and 80 series. There's a handful of monos, okay? In particular, things in the 1500 series, because stereo wasn't around yet. Now, when people talk about the Blue Note canon, all the records in the Blue Note, they generally hold them to this high level of esteem, and it's pretty widely accepted that Blue Note are of a slightly higher quality than, say, Prestige or Impulse, Riverside, etc. And there's this thing that goes around on the internet, like Alfred Lyon gave the guys a few days to rehearse and paid them for those rehearsals, and that really makes this huge difference when it comes to like comparing the work done on the different labels. That's I'm not going to be too rough because the rehearsals do matter, okay? But if you think that giving John Coltrane 3 days of rehearsal really makes a difference, I don't know. John Coltrane, Lee Morgan, Herbie Hancock, Dexter Gordon, Wayne Shorter, these are perfect masters at their craft. forged in the flames of the club scene and hours of relentless practice. 3 days of playing on tunes doesn't really matter because they're probably playing all the time with their friends. You know, they were probably getting together constantly at their homes and out in the clubs and playing constantly. You know, obviously if a group's been together for a while, they can develop some higher level of chemistry, you know, and kind of musical ESP. But to think that 3 days of rehearsal is going to make Coltrane play the head Blue Train any better is probably... no. Here's the deal. If you watch any of the Rudy Van Gelder interviews, you'll hear him tell the story of how he made this fantastic sounding recording. It got around town. People heard it. They wanted their recordings to sound like that. So eventually Alfred Lyons heard this recording, went to Rudy, said, "Can you reproduce it?" He said, "Yes, I can." And that becomes the standard for how all Blue Note records were recorded. Essentially, the people running Blue Note said, "This is the way we want it, Rudy." And if you listen to what Rudy says, he clearly says that when he was recording Prestige or anybody else, he would try new microphones, new miking techniques. You know, it was just a looser environment where they would experiment, and it was just a totally different situation. When you come in to an environment where you're paid to rehearse, where you kind of know what the end sonic result will be, okay? It's about an attitude thing. You know, it's not just a blowing session. It's a serious situation. It's not, and that's what's going on. It's not necessarily about the rehearsal. It's about the attitude about the session. And not just that, but it's also about the consistency of how they recorded those sessions. The technical aspects of how the drums were mic'd and how the horns were mic'd and how the bass was done and all of these things. And then the mastering was all done in a uniform way on the Blue Note records. They really chopped the low end quite a bit and boosted a lot in the low mids and mids in general. So when they were mixing and mastering these records, and that contributes to the sound of Blue Note record. That said, let's get into the Tone Poet series. I think that these records are very lush sounding. Okay, let's move on. Let's show some other records here. They're very lush sounding, very detailed. Boom, Dexter Gordon, Clubhouse right here. You know, Freddie Hubbard's on this, Billy Higgins, Bob Crenshaw, Barry Harris. I mean, this is a pretty cool record. You know, it's a stereo. It's on that classic Blue Note label. You know, they chose some interesting titles to come out of the gate with, I think. But, you know, these records have a really, really detailed and rich sound. I really love them. Now, that said, I am a member of the Steve Hoffman Forum. Okay? And if you're a member of the Hoffman Forum, you know where I'm going with this. The Tone Poet series and the Blue Note 80 series have not been free of controversy. There has been some controversy, okay? One of those records, we all know what the records are, but I'm going to show this one. Boom. Sam Rivers, Contours, fantastic record. This is a little more outside than some of the other titles, probably. It's not really that outside, though, you know. But it's a little more avant-garde than some of the, you know, other things. That said, you know, you got Freddie Hubbard, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Joe Chambers with Sam Rivers. Excellent looking cover. Now, on the Hoffman Forum, okay, there's been complaints about wow and flutter. This is kind of a chorusing effect. We'll try to put in like a kind of, I'll figure out a way to explain to you what that means. But all right, for purposes of demonstration, I'm going to show you what wow and flutter is. I've got guitar here plugged in just into an amp, and I'm going to play some chords with no wow and flutter, and then I'm going to add some to it with some effects pedals down here so that you know what I'm talking about. It's on the piano, okay, for whatever reason. That's where I hear it the most. It's not on all the records, it's just on a few. Anytime the piano just hits these kind of stabs or, you know, ends of phrase or whatever, you can kind of hear a little bit of that wow and flutter. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. And it's probably an issue with the tape or possibly the tape machine. I know for a fact that at Coherent they use a 2-inch Studer tape machine. It's as old as probably some of these recordings are. I'm sure it's in great working condition, but that doesn't mean that something can't, you know, occasionally happen. Now that said, it's probably more of a problem with the tape. And some of the people on the Hoffman forum have actually suggested going in and digitally manipulating the problems and trying to correct them. That's one of the most asinine things I've heard in quite a while. I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a purist, but the whole point of these records is that they're from the tapes and they're from the analog source. Digitally manipulating the tapes is not the way to go. I say, warts and all, you know, make it sound the best that it can. Put it on vinyl. That's where I'm at with it. Okay. Those dudes are high. Anyway, Pam Dawber's Chant. This is another one. It's a fantastic record. Pepper Adams, Herbie Hancock. Herbie is on a lot of these records, and you know I'm a Herbie Hancock freak. So, you know, this is a fantastic one. It's a must-have. Look at this. You know, Francis Wolff, always doing these red kind of filtered photographs. I love it. It's killer. Grant Green's Nigeria. I like this one. There's no horn player on it. I would like it better if you know, if it had a horn player on it. And I'm a guitar player, you know, I'm a guitar player. So, but this is a great record too. Nigeria, that's a good one. But I like this one a little bit better. Grant Green's Born to Be Blue, right? Ike Quebec, just playing beautiful stuff on this. I mean, just really kind of detailed, woody sounding stuff with a lot of air and just presence. It sounds fantastic on my stereo, okay? I don't know what kind of stereo you got, but if you got a good one, the last track on this record, incredible. You know, you have to remember that when these guys are playing the music, the instruments are like extensions to their bodies. And the horn players, you know, the air is coming out of their lungs. They're literally breathing life into this music. And this record is fantastic. To me, I love this. This is the Grant Green record right here. Let me show you a Blue Note 80 here. Here it is. Boom. Art Blakey, Indestructible. Wayne Shorter. Yeah, this is dope. Yeah. I mean, these are, I will say this, the Blue Note 80s have a slightly different sound than the Tone Poets do. both very good, very, very good, but they're just a little bit different. I can't really put it into words yet, but I will tell you this. I recommend getting every single pressing that they do in the Blue Note 80 series. They're just inexpensive. They're fantastic records. And I'm going to elaborate more on this in a minute, but this is a great record. It's fantastic. But my favorite of the Tone Poet series is the first Tone Poet. Still, boom, Wayne Shorter's, etc. I love this record. Herbie Hancock, Wayne, Joe Chambers. I mean, this is just the kind of moody sounding stuff that I love, and it's just a dope ass record, and it's still my favorite one. It's my favorite one. So that one is a must have. All of these records are crazy expensive if you went and bought original pressings of them. One of the cool things that they're doing is, so they did a Chick Corea on Solid State, and they did this record right here. Boom, Chet Baker sings on Pacific Jazz. Now, I'm not a big vocal jazz guy, but this is a pretty good jazz record to have, Chet Baker. He's pretty decent, It sounds real good, really good. And it's really, really tough to find this record clean, original pressing. It's on Pacific Jazz. I like how they do the actual labels off the record. It's really, really well done stuff, guys. And this is you could hold, I don't like vocal jazz enough to buy an original pressing. So this was perfect for me. And that's what I'm talking about. That's a pretty expensive record. But you can get, if not the best pressing ever made, the second best pressing ever made for $27.99, okay? And that brings us to this last record here. The OODA Hip. Judah Hip. Judah Hip. Judah Hip. Zoot Sims, okay? She made such a burning record. This is such a great record, okay? It's fantastic. This is mono. It's from the 1500 series, right? So it says microgroove, 33 1/3 right there. Mono first pressings of this record I have seen sell for obscene prices, okay? So yeah, this may knock the market out on that a little bit, okay? But if you get any of the Blue Note 80s, get this. Zoot Sims, he sounds incredible on this. He really, really does. He sounds fantastic. OODA sounds incredible on the piano. This is a fantastic record. And it would be almost impossible to get a mint original pressing. And I guarantee you that this thing is 95% of sonically of what the original pressing is. So I do have from a very good source that the Tina Brooks record that just came out not long ago is a really strong tone poet. So I would suggest that. And there's another Lee Morgan coming, and hopefully they'll continue with the Tone Poet series for quite some time. They're making me very happy, and I'm going to try to continue to buy as many of them as I can within reason. We're on shaky ground economically and even socially. Who knows what's going to happen with all this stuff? So I am kind of weirded out about just, throwing down a lot of jack on a bunch of records. But I can enthusiastically say that I don't regret getting any of these. This is a healthy stack of jazz, and it's all really fantastic stuff. So yeah, the Blue Note Tone Poet series, May of 2020. When more come out and I get them, maybe I'll have some more thoughts on them. But as of right now, it is a buy. So until we meet again, Bob out.